they became so fascinating when I realized that it deals with our karmic path that we're taking in this incarnation, but it also has a lot to do with what we've done in a previous incarnation. So the North Node is known as Rahu, and the South Node is known as Ketu in Indian astrology or Vedic astrology. And it's kind of interesting that something so simple as the moon crossing the ecliptic would create this position in time that would be so powerful. So the moon going from south to north is the North Node, and the moon crossing the ecliptic from north to south is the South Node. These nodes, their actual cycle to come back to exactly where they were when you were born is 18.6 years. So it's kind of very relevant for you to break down the position of the node, the aspects that they have in the birth chart, and then in addition, to be able to take and see the pattern that has been created throughout one cycle. So an example of that would be watching the North Node cross the ascendant, making aspects within the natal chart, moving to the midheaven. Who are you associating with? I consider the node a position of association, and also who's the soul group that you've connected with. So specifically, when the North Node is wherever it is in your birth chart, and the sign that it's in and the aspects it makes tells you what at least the North Node, the future pattern that you're getting ready to create. So now the past pattern that you have is from the South Node. That's K2. So what kind of energy surrounds the South Node and the North Node? What is the pattern that you have created? Each one of us has something different and unique with these North and South Nodes. And the North Node, what most people like to do is look at the birth pattern first, and then take it from there and look at your midpoints. And those midpoints makes it really intricate. You're able to see so much more once you're able to do that, to look at midpoints. So now I look at the midpoints on a 90-degree dial, which gives me so much more information. And more recently, I started using the midpoints combined with asteroids. That got really fascinating. And so the North Node, from my experience, and I have quite a bit now, half a lifetime, more than half a lifetime. The North Node represents our family, our people, our tribe, our soul group, our associations. Now, some of these are not this lifetime. That's when the South Node is involved. And so I'll give you a little story so you get an example of how that works. A girlfriend of mine and I were at a health club, and she was treated so rudely. And I thought, well, that's really strange. She's never met this person before, and it was a hostile situation. So I thought, well, I'm going to go back and look at her chart, because that to me sounded like the sun, the day of, crossing the South Node, which would mean that she had already known that person before, and it came from the sixth house, someone who she may have worked with. And so I went and I looked, and there it was, exactly on that day. And so it became fascinating to me that this South Node also works really well, especially the day of. And so she had the aspect that I thought would be present, and it could only be present one day out of the year. So, and that one day she met that person who obviously had a previous incarnation where she had been around her and they couldn't stand each other was the issue. And a couple other ones that I saw that made me really look at that south node, meaning a past life where you had come in contact with someone. And not always is it good, but it does mean that now finally, whatever those issues were could come to light and could be worked through. And if it's a one-day aspect, then it could be worked through on that day. And one day would be the sun. Now, there are solar arcs involved too. In a solar arc or a secondary progression, these move a lot slower. So let's give an example of the north node moving by solar arc or degree arc, which means it's moving approximately 1 degree per year. So it's moving, and let's say you had a Mercury node when you were 3 years old. The solar arc node hit your Mercury. That could be the birth of a sibling. Siblings are ruled by Mercury, third house. And so in my own chart, I have 14 of us. So 10 brothers and 3 sisters and myself. So each time there was someone born, I checked back and there was always the north node present. And I thought, fascinating how this actually works. The other thing that I became fascinated with is where are the nodes in your chart? What degree are they? Where exactly? And so the reason I became fascinated with it is when the north node is at the 0 Cancer or 0 Capricorn, those are extreme situations. That's the beginning of the summer, the beginning of the winter. And my own north node is at 1 degree of Cancer in the 12th house. So I realized, wow, this is kind of a big deal where these north nodes are because of the amount of energy that is going there. And who's your tribe? Who's your family? Who are you connecting with? Who did you connect with in a previous incarnation? And the south node doesn't mean it's a bad connection. It means that it's a prior connection where you are finishing up whatever that cycle is and completing that process.